Well, this is our first recording of 2024. Can't believe the new year is already here. Very excited for today to have Pat and Val of Back Creek Farm on the podcast. But first, we're going to start out with a little catch-up since it's been a few weeks since Daniel and I have been together recording. So, Dan, what's been going on at the bakery and at the farm?
We had a great rest time over Christmas. I don't think we've taken this amount of time completely off. Shut the bakery down and did a little bit of baking, but had a lot of time to refuel and consider what the new year's going to look like. Probably the biggest takeaway that I'm excited to announce and to share is that we're going to begin shipping frozen product nationwide at the start of February.
All right.
So Jill has been branding this new venture for us, and it's called The Baker's Box by Seasons Yield. And this came as a response to many friends and many complete strangers who have emailed and say, hey, I live in Ohio. Is there any way we can get this frozen pizza dough out to us? Any way you can ship croissants out to us? So we've dabbled in the frozen goods through Polyface. So you can buy frozen goods, but is dependent upon your meat purchase. You can't just
So currently, if you order meat from Polyface, you can add on a bread order.
It's an add-on,
Yeah,
right?
gotcha.
So we've been mulling this over, and we see this as a unique opportunity that we hadn't foreseen. But we're going to throw some dry ice in a box and give it a whirl. So that's going to start in February. Super excited about the upside that it provides the business, and we can do it with the staffing that we already have. So it's a means of maximizing the personnel, kind of the organizational management piece that really feels exciting to us. So that's our big push and one of our big focuses for the new year. Super pumped. So look for the Baker's Box coming to your doorstep.
Love it.
Soon. So
That's so awesome.
yeah, how about you, bud?
We had similar, a nice, easy holiday, Christmas, and New Year. We sold most of our cow-calf herd, as you know. So we're down to a handful of heifers and a bull. So it's nice to have a little bit of less responsibility on the farm over the winter. A big, exciting update in terms of projects was we broke ground on a road for our cottages that we're building at the farm. Very excited about that. It then proceeded to rain for many days, so we've gotten only that far. But yeah, luckily the rain was needed, and luckily it wasn't here at the farm. We didn't have any damaging levels of floods, which was very good. And yeah, I had a quick story with the bull and him being here on the farm. So we used to have 2 bulls. We sold one of them, and so we brought the one bull we had left kind of right back to a field right by our house so we could keep an eye on him. And he's a few years old now, so he's mostly mellowed out and all that. He's not a rambunctious young buck anymore. But all that said, he's a bull, so you got to keep eyes in the back of your head when you're around him. My wife and I were on a walk one morning, just the two of us, and we decided to cut across the pasture he's in, and he's like 100 yards away. I'm not worried about it. But then as we're walking, we end up just making a turn where we end up getting closer to him, and it's this beautiful morning. The sun's coming up, and he's standing. He's just, chewing cud, just standing there looking at us. And we end up getting about maybe 50 feet from him, and my wife stops to take a picture, and I'm like, hey, babe, let's keep walking, because he kind of takes one step towards us. I'm like, babe, we got to keep moving. And we start walking away, and he turns and full on charges towards both of us. And my wife lets out a scream, and I'm like, run! And she runs one way, I run the other way. And she's just screaming. And luckily, Rudy the bull chased after me. And so I knew, like I said, I always have an escape plan with him when I'm close enough to him. Because again, like 90 times out of 100, there's no problem. But there's 10 or so times you got to keep your wits about you. So I ran over to this tree that was really close by, the cedar. And that cedar's about 10 feet off of the fence for the paddock he's in. And so I get behind the tree as he's charging towards me to put something between me and him so I can find a stick so I can defend myself. And we get into a stare down because there's no stick near me. So I just keep stomping and going towards him and yelling, "Hey!" Trying to get
picture
him to back
pawing the
down.
ground.
Oh, he didn't paw, luckily, but he just stood there with his head down, just waiting. And the thing there is, like, with me and him, I don't want him to think he's the dominant one. So Jill's like, "Jump the fence, get out of there." I'm like, "No, I gotta stay in here. I gotta show him who's
This
who's
could take a
boss."
while.
Yeah, and a minute or so later, he finally lost interest and walked away. I was like, "That's right." Then I jumped the fence.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are some fun updates. We're really excited for this year, for all the projects coming. And again, so excited to have y'all on the podcast today, especially because, well, I won't say too much actually. Daniel has a fun way to introduce y'all's passion and business today.
Yeah. Pat and Val, thank you so much for coming on. And Pat and Val are from Highland County. Yeah, what is it, 2 hours for you to get here?
Close.
Over a few mountain ranges. And what I wanted to do to introduce what their industry is just give you a few breadcrumbs along the way. So see if you can guess what this intriguing industry is that they do as their passion and as their business. So this particular industry is food and food service. It would fall in that category. Okay, that's your first hint. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry in North America. Okay, it's a fraction of that coming from Virginia, but this is big business implications as well. Another hint for you is that the cost of this item is 30 times the cost of a barrel of this item is 30 times that of a barrel of oil. So a fine grade product. Okay.
Can you guess what it is?
Yeah. Can you guess? Here's a few more if you haven't figured it out. There is only, of all the products you can create with this thing that we're talking about, it comes from one ingredient and one ingredient only. It is a miracle of nature and God's creation. It is amazing. It really is liquid gold. And if you haven't guessed already, what we're talking about is maple syrup, and it's what you all are really good at. We have some of the, I guess we should have moved these before tipping the hand. But anyway,
oh yeah, that's right. If you're watching, you knew.
But this is really exciting for us because we at Seasons Yield learn syrup in large part because of you all and my parents' visit to your farm at Back Creek. You've been so kind and generous with your knowledge and passing it on to my dad, and we're really excited about it. Maple syrup, just to Pat, I'm treading outside my lane right here, but just a few other things that just make this a fascinating product is you have a variety of maple trees. The ones that produce the sap with the most sugar content are the sugar maples, but you can make maple syrup from a variety of different maple trees, and a single maple tree can give around 20 gallons of sap, give or take, in a season, and it takes between 40 and 60 gallons of that sap to make a gallon of syrup. This stuff is really precious. I know our sugar content is probably less than yours, but it takes 61 gallons of sap to make a gallon.
Yeah.
What's your ratio?
It was about 50.
When we started out at the first of the season, that's when you get all your good sweet water. And it was over 2%. And in 6 weeks, that will go from 2% down to possibly 1%.
Just takes more as the season goes
Yes.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were almost up to 70 gallon there at the very end. It was, lake water and everything, but we got to show the people how to make syrup.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would encourage you to do after listening to this is either go to Back Creek or find your closest syruper. It is a fascinating process. It's simple and really fascinating, but the sap, when the sap is flowing, it's like you turned on a faucet on the tree, and this cold, clear, water-like sap comes out. If you hold up a cup of sap, it's like a cup of water, and it has a slight sweetness to it. And all you do is remove moisture from it to make the syrup. So you're increasing the sugar content, taking water out of the product, and that's how you derive the syrup. But it's just such a cool thing that it comes from the trees. And in our backyard, buddy, you got some giant
that's
old
something
maples.
you guys all have made syrup. I was joking before the podcast. I've just a master of eating the syrup. So, something I'm excited to just learn from you guys today is how my little bit of research and just knowing, living in this area for over a decade now, making syrup was something that almost everybody used to do. Like, we've got, as you mentioned, 2 sugar maples in front of our house, and I've read that that was a really common thing to plant a few right in your yard. Mm-hmm. There used to be actually a little like smokehouse sugar shack behind our house long before we moved here, but in old pictures you can see it, because that was a thing of the norm, kind of like how people used to always, salt pork and cure pork for over the winter. So anyway, I think it's a really cool part of Virginia's history, because when you think maple syrup, you think of Canada or Vermont or whatever. And that is where most of the syrup currently comes from. But it is really cool in the world. But it's really cool to think this is this sort of, maybe to some people, unknown, beautiful industry that is in a really cool place right now too, where I think it's on the verge of growing a lot, which is exciting. Go ahead, Dan.
I was just gonna say, I've been talking outside of my lane. You all are the experts, but is it true that your family, Pat, has been doing this since 1838? Is that part of your history?
What does it say on that?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Oh yeah, it's in the name.
Yeah, we can trace it back conveniently that far. So my dad didn't start making there at where we lived until I was about 6, 7 years old, and we just had a little lean-to, and we did it in kettles, iron kettles. And I can remember my sister and I sitting in there. Daddy had a little seat, and we could sit inside that little lean-to, and now Daddy used old rails and stuff to bank the fires up, and you sat there and watched to make sure that it didn't go anywhere, which it never did. But it will boil over after it gets to a certain stage, and too much fire will make a mess.
Like
But you started when you were 6 or 7. It's been a part of your
forever,
entire life.
Yeah, and then when my grandfather Lowry, who lived up the road, he wasn't doing it anymore, and he gave my dad some more buckets. And when he gave him some more buckets, that was one of the things that we didn't have containers. We didn't have buckets back then. If you got a gallon from the school, if you got a gallon can, you knocked a couple holes in it, put a wire on it, and hung it over under a spout. And then when he got those extra buckets, then we tapped more trees. And I can remember on a good day maybe getting 60 gallon of water. And that was a lot back
From
then.
one tree.
No, from the ones that we had right there.
Around the house.
Right around there. So, yeah, and then as we got along later on, Daddy built a old sugar house. That's when we got the pan from my great-grandmother's farm, which was across one mountain and 1 mile off of the road. And they depended on the maple to have their sugar and, their sweeteners and stuff like that. It was a necessity at that time.
Did you still use that pan?
We still use it even today.
It's,
In 1962, my grandmother and her husband and great-grandmother moved to Monterey. And when she moved to Monterey, she gave the pan to my dad. And then that's when we found some old lumber somewhere and put up this little shack. And he used a car frame or something to set the sugar pan on to begin with, and then we would mud around it, and oh yeah, we was top notch then. You could throw a whole rail under that baby then.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, then we would boil for a day or so, and then take off 2 or 3 gallons. So, that was the beginning of it.
So the pan is English tin, and it's conservatively 150 years old. It's from before the Civil War.
Whoa.
And it does not have a hole in it, and so we do still use it for boiling. And it's wonderful because we also have a small evaporator, which we don't like to use. But anyway, but people can come to our sugar house and see both methods of making syrup.
What's the other method?
Well, with the evaporator, which is much more efficient. But both of ours, both the evaporator and our open pan, are still both wood fired. So all the modern equipment is oil fired, but we use
cool.
wood. So.
When I was an intern at Polyface Farm in Swope outside of Stanton, and that was the first time I ever saw maple syrup being made. They just had stainless steel. It's about the size of this table here. Maybe not quite this big, but about the size of this table. About 8-10 inches high on the side. It's a big rectangle stainless steel thing, and we would put cinder blocks around it and build a fire and then just put embers under it. And it was one of those things like during the day, you'd just walk by and, because there's people all the time there. So you'd walk by and make sure the fire was going right. And one
Plenty
guy
of
was in
water.
charge of making
Stoking
he
it.
was he was the stoker, but you'd always kind of keep an eye on it. And they just did it more as you're describing, Pat, like at least when I was there, it was buckets, and you'd just bring 5-gallon buckets down and dump them in. But that was my first introduction to it. Maybe is that similar to the pan method you're talking about?
Oh, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Just it's a slightly larger pan than that. But
Val, how did you get into are you from Highland County? How did you
No.
get into the syrup industry with Pat?
I was going to say, you don't sound like you're from Highland County.
No, but from a Maple State. I'm from Wisconsin originally.
okay.
So, but was never involved with it up there at all. So when we started dating, it was in the early spring, and we went to the sugar house. And if you've ever been in a sugar house when syrup is boiling, the smell is what I imagine heaven smells like, because the smell is just unbelievable.
Plus, your wood gets smoked inside. too.
Yeah. And this was like not the sugar house Pat's been talking about, but because that one got washed away in the flood. But then he had another one after that, but it was behind our house. And anyway, that one didn't have electricity, has a mud floor, and no gravel, excuse me. No running water except for the water from a spring. So it was just
awesome.
cold. And it was like across this muddy field from our house. So at night, but this was it was very romantic, because at night, after we got married, I'd walk back to the house, and it just, it's just nothing but you and the stars. And then we never took a flashlight or anything. We just walked across this field and, went home from there. So,
That's so
anyway, so that's where we started.
So the syrup steam reeled you right in.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. Yeah.
Pat knew what he was
Got a lot
doing.
to owe to this maple syrup thing, Pat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would usually stay over until 10 o'clock at night, and then I would fill the pan up with water, sugar water, and then bank it up, and then I'd wake up at 2 o'clock, and then I'd go over and do the same thing, and then at 6 o'clock, that was my
Shift.
my shifts to keep it going. Like you said, that one guy was the fire for the Polyface,
Yeah.
and that's basically, you could go out and do other things while it was boiling. An evaporator, you have to stay right there with that thing, and sometimes scares you to death.
Well, and now the way we work is I just stay at the sugar house and boil all day, so I can keep chucking wood under there, and I just keep it boiling all day, so that we have a pan of syrup to take off in the evening when Pat
Yeah,
comes
we
in.
would generally
So,
do a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
Can you describe to the listeners who are not familiar the rhythms of this sap season. This is not a year round.
Oh, no.
This is very concentrated. Can you explain
Yeah.
that, and then kind of what your flow looks like yearly? So I think it's really
You
intriguing.
want me to do that? or-
Yeah, go ahead.
So
help
our
you.
syrup season is about ready to begin here. Some people are already tapping in Highland County. Yeah, it has to be above freezing during the day and below freezing at night for the trees to run. And basically what they're doing is they're sending the trees' lifeblood up to the branches so that they can bud out and make leaves in the spring. And a lot of times people will say, "Oh, do you think there's going to be a syrup season this year?" And my response is, "Do you think the trees are going to get leaves?" Because if they are, yeah, we will have a syrup season,
Yeah.
of some sort. So anyway, yeah, so it's a certain time of year. For us, it's between January and March. And then March, being kind of the end of the season, is when our Maple Festival is. And usually shortly after that, we quit boiling. So, and then the process, like during the day, is the way we do it, because we don't own a giant sugar bush. We just have a few trees around the sugar house we have now. But then we've always tapped on other farms on Back Creek, which was why we call it Back Creek Farms with
cool.
an S.
Yeah.
And then we have some other sugar bushes that we open. So, yeah. So Pat will go out and collect the water in large tanks. Now we use a lot of tubing. We do still use some buckets, but a lot of tubing. And then he'll bring it back to the sugar house. We do have a small reverse osmosis machine to start taking some of that water out, because Daniel, as you said, it's a simple process, but it's not easy. It's like there are a lot of points at which things can go wrong. So anyway, so we'll run it through the reverse osmosis. We usually take ours to about 10% sugar content. 8 to 10. Major producers go between 20 and 30% and then start boiling because it uses so much less fuel. We prefer the taste that we get from holding that back. And then we'll boil. So then when we're using the open pan, what we do is we'll boil it all day. And then in the evening, we'll cut off the flow to it so that what's in there just boils down. And then we'll have between 12 and 20 gallons of maple syrup in that large pan. So then Pat and I will lift that off, and then I pick up one end and he drains it out the other, or scoops it out at the other end. And then we filter it, put it in large containers, and then we bottle it at some other time, because usually during that part of maple season, we're too busy to bottle.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you store it until you're ready to bottle?
Stainless steel barrels and food grade totes.
Yeah. We have some plastic totes that are made for hot liquid to go in them. I mean, it's not something you go get at Walmart.
Right.
15-gallon stainless steel kegs were great because Valerie and I both can still handle one of those.
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking of those big. We have those, 250-gallon cubes that we use on the farm for water, but we get them from the Little Debbie's plant. They're
Yeah.
food grade.
Right.
Yeah.
But
That we've used those for
You got to
years.
use those. You got to have a tractor. You got a front end loader to be able to move those around.
We use those for our sugar water and stuff.
Oh,
so,
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
So,
we use as well. Yeah.
And tell him how we know when it's time to stop making maple syrup.
Oh, so in the spring, over the course of the season, the maple syrup will change. It will go from a really light, just sweet syrup, and then in the middle of the season, it'll have a nice medium amber to it,
Mahogany, yeah.
When you
and
get
have
the
a
good
good
stuff.
mapley flavor. And then at the end of the season, it'll turn really dark, which used to be called grade B. Now it's called very dark, strong flavor, which describes it pretty
It's
well.
my favorite.
Yeah, and it has kind of a molassesy flavor to it, better for baking with.
Right.
Looking at you, Daniel.
And anyway, but then, and those last pans of syrup start to smell different. But our key to when to stop is the peep frogs. We have
Oh, yep, the peepers.
Peep frogs,
Yeah,
yeah.
we call them spring peepers.
spring peepers, right. And the peepers will come up and we'll hear them. And then it'll get cold again. They'll go back down and they'll come up again. Well, the third time the peepers come up, we just go pull all the spiles because at that point it's too buddy to make syrup.
Yeah, and we'll watch the buds also on the trees.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can tell just by the buds swelling, buddy syrup does not taste good. And that can really ruin something real quick.
Yeah.
So
Do
And
you
some
mix all the various, like throughout the season, will you take a mixture of all three when you bottle, or do you do them by, like, this is an early, vintage, I guess it would be
Yeah.
early season, this is mid-season prime, and this is end of season very dark?
We kind of keep them separate because the early season syrup, the really light, is what Pat uses to make maple candy. And we also, because of boiling in the open pan and boiling longer, we don't make a lot of really light syrup.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of our candy syrup. Mid-year is what we sell. And then the grade B, actually, we have quite a market for our grade B because it definitely has a clientele.
distinct, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, do you use the wood because of the tradition and old ways of it, or is it a flavor thing too, or what are the reasons for wood versus oil? Because I'm sure, like with the baking ovens, Daniel, I'm sure it's much easier to use your gas-fired ovens, and I know you have both, versus your wood-fired oven. What's the benefits there?
Well, now our open pan, it's not completely sealed. So, yes, it gets a little bit of smoke in it. And people, we have found, likes that little bit of smoke flavor. And we think that comes from the wood. And it's just a traditional thing, wood.
And all our neighbors bring us their old fences. So
Yeah,
we,
it's
It's like
easy,
we
yeah.
burn them.
The fence posts come, and a guy just dropped off a big load of locust fence posts
Oh,
the other
nice.
day. So that's
That's good.
that's
for
what we use for that.
Yeah, that's something about the industry that fascinated me, as a passion of mine is sustainable agriculture or regenerative ag. And I do that with beef cattle and other livestock, but maple syrup is another one of those things because you have to keep good stands of timber with good healthy trees, and you're not killing the
exact-
trees by taking the sap.
Correct.
And you're burning usually, you're not cutting down nice trees that could be
You pick them
part
out.
of your sugar bush. Yeah, you're picking them up to burn. So it just seems like a really beautiful. The whole system is very
It's very
enticing.
perennial.
Yeah,
Perennial,
it's really
yeah.
cool. And I can imagine as a business with setting certain things up, like getting neighbors to bring you firewood, that's got to be huge because that's would otherwise be a big,
big
cost
cost,
and
yeah.
time
Yeah.
portion of things. So there's a lot of things about it that are really fascinating to me from that regenerative
Yeah.
ag side.
Yeah,
too.
Laurel Fork Sapsuckers, who's up on top of the Allegheny, they're the highest elevated sugar house on Back Creek. He's into forest management, and he has some beautiful places up there.
Yeah,
We eat so much maple candy. I'll just make it in the pan at night, and we'll put a whole, no less than a quart of it in the, and with 5 children and me, we can tear through some candy. We'll just pour it out on the parchment.
Yeah.
I think I brought you some. Remember
Oh,
at Cafe?
it's amazing.
It is my favorite treat in all the world. I can't believe it. So to hear you talk about this infused maple cream and candy,
and it's
amazing.
fascinating
It's amazing.
too. Again, just on I had to do research because of how little I know about maple syrup. But it's actually like versus a sugar-based candy. There are. I mean, it's still obviously maple still has the sugar content, but the syrup has other things in it that are good for you. Versus
Yes.
like a lollipop made out of
Yes.
sugar or corn syrup that
it's
doesn't
packed
have
with
other
more mineral and nutrients than honey.
Yes.
I mean, it's fascinating.
antioxidants.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh
And it
yeah,
also-
vitamins, all this
Come
stuff.
on.
Yeah,
And it
it's crazy.
metabolizes slower. So actually, if you are diabetic, it's like the best sweet that you can put in your body because it metabolizes slower. Can I just say something? Okay,
Yes.
so we've been talking about syrup, but my favorite Bible verse is taste and see that the Lord is good.
I see where you're going.
Been waiting for
Which
this.
is Psalm
Yeah.
34:8. And anyway, so I just like for you all to taste. And when we do this tasting, it'll also lead into some of what makes Back Creek Farms different from other producers, too. So
Sounds great.
All right, let's
Okay.
do it. Do you mind if we keep chatting while you
No.
dish up?
ahead here.
Awesome.
All right, so first, this is our pure maple syrup.
On
You're
what
spilling
you were,
that stuff on me.
I'm sure it wouldn't be the first
There we
time.
go.
No, no.
It's a daily
I had a
Oh,
quart
my
jar
goodness.
bust on me one time.
I think what Buddy was talking about, the wood versus all the conventional new methods. Something that I've tasted in your syrup, and I love to promote about our syrup, is because you're not using the most efficient means to make it, the flavor is so much more complex because it takes longer to make it. That's where the flavor of the syrup comes from, is the longer you boil. And I think that's the distinctive of the wood. You can taste that smoke. Can you not taste that smoke?
Good. Just the faintest little bit
Yep.
too.
Yeah.
It's not like
This is
not
nature's
like a
candy.
peaty scotch or something. It's just a little bit of it. Oh,
That
so
is
good.
exceptional.
Okay. Well,
That is
then,
exceptional.
Wish people could also. You guys all need to go to Back Creek and
Yeah, yeah.
well, so then, like I said, we've and Pat's been making syrup his entire life. We've been doing it together since 2000. So then Pat started doing other things, and the first other thing really was the hickory syrup. And when he did that, we realized, there's a market for different things.
syrup from hickory trees.
Well, actually, it's from the bark of a hickory tree.
Wow.
It's not the same process, but I don't want to go there right now. But anyway, so I also brought with us, so then we got into infusing syrup via barrel aging. But anyway, let you taste. This is our chili pepper infused syrup.
Oh, wow.
And people, go ahead.
Did the motivation to do these things come from a business perspective or more of an
No, we don't
interest
plan
perspective?
anything.
Yeah.
People kept asking us every year at Maple Festival, what you got that's new? Nobody had anything that was
Oh,
new.
wow.
Yeah, it hits. It takes a couple.
It's
seconds
all
and then-
syrup, then you swallow it, and it's a little bit of
So
heat there.
that
back
is
now.
Awesome on like a fried chicken. That
Yeah.
would be really
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
See, the
Chicken
thing,
and waffles, roasted
Yeah.
vegetables, and grits. It's fantastic on
grits.
grits. So
So good.
anyway.
what you want in these infusions and stuff, some of them took a good while, some of them didn't. But you never want to kill the maple
Yeah.
flavor. You always want to get your maple flavor first, and then
Is it for
whatever it's
chili?
infused
No,
with will be
this is
second hand
vanilla
or
scent.
third hand.
Can you tell us how you infuse these? Like,
No,
do you
that's a
put
secret.
chilies in there?
I'd
Oh,
have
okay.
to kill
Trade-
you if
trade
I did.
secret. Can we?
Actually, they all have different recipes. Actually, this chili does not have a chili pepper in it. Normally,
Oh,
we
the
put
vanilla
a chili
Oh
pepper.
yeah, that
This is
doesn't have
vanilla
chili.
cinnamon that
This
they're
you could
tasting
just
now.
eat straight up as a dessert like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
So
Pour that over some ice cream.
Oh,
Yeah,
Wow.
ice cream. So anyway, we kind of got into the infusions via this one I'm going to give you last, which is our bourbon barrel aged. Because unbeknownst to me, Pat put some maple syrup in a small bourbon barrel that we had gotten.
Come on, Pat.
I like your thinking.
And I walked
Combining your favorite things over there.
I walked into the sugar house and I said, "What are you doing?" Because the whole thing
Smell like bourbon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Give him enough
So-
he can taste.
There you go.
Oh my.
Oh, this one I can smell a little bit of.
Yeah.
The,
Oh,
Yeah, you can.
Could I have a little bit more of that one?
Of
Wow.
course.
There
oh,
is
yeah,
so
that's
much
definitely
flavor in
my
there.
favorite. That is so good.
Yeah.
Because
This,
I've never had anything. All of them are ones I can envision. Like Jill was saying before we started recording, she did a tasting, and she was like, "In the best way, my brain doesn't believe it because I haven't tasted something like this before. It doesn't feel real or something. This one, especially, I've never had anything like this, and it's good. Wow.
So good.
wow.
French
Yeah.
toast.
It's like-
That on French toast is absolutely to die for.
Or with bread
Can you
pudding.
can you do a mixed drink with
I was gonna
this?
say
Oh,
you
yeah.
can.
Can
make
you tell us about your mixed drink of choice? Yeah.
Yeah, it's one shot of your best bourbon, preferably homemade.
Love it.
2 shots of the bourbon syrup and crushed ice and put it in a shaker and shake it up and enjoy it.
Man.
So
Really
good. That's
simple.
exceptional.
Yeah, thank you for bringing those to taste. That's I think one of the things that excites me as I think about it from a business perspective, it is such a differentiate. If you put that next to any other, grocery store syrup, I mean blind taste test, there's no way any one of those wouldn't blow it out of the water. And it's because of all that depth of flavor. I frankly don't really like syrup because I'm thinking of the grocery store syrup. But these I could eat straight up. They're so good.
Yeah,
With such a exceptional product and with where you're located, can you describe some of the challenges marketing wise and what keeps this from blowing up? Is it the amount that you're able to produce? Is it the
distribution or getting people aware of it? Or
Well, okay, so our
Mike.
biggest benefit is the Highland County Maple Festival.
What is that?
Well, okay, the Maple Festival takes place for 2 weekends every March, the second and third weekends in March. And it's the biggest economic benefit to Highland County for the entire year. It's like every civic organization has their money maker then. There's the maple donuts and the pork rinds, and I mean just all the things that go along with Maple Festival, and everybody has their kind of niche for that. And then there's a tour of the sugar camps, which is not organized. It's like you have to drive to them individually.
Oh, that's cool.
But anyway, so what happened was when I first met Pat, he shared a booth on the courthouse lawn with another friend. And then over time, as the two of us worked together on it, and we built this, finally it was like, Pat, we got to have our own booth. So we had our own little 10 by 10 booth. Because where Back Creek is, it's like way far out. So we thought we can never be on the sugar tour. Well, then over time, we kept adding products and syrup, and we were also the first ones to ever give tastings of our syrup. And that was huge. And we would, because since Vermont has better marketing, and they have talked people into Vermont fancy syrup, we would have people come into our booth and say, oh, we want some of that Vermont fancy, which is the really light syrup. And I just kept thinking, well, maybe you do, but I don't think so.
Yeah. You only knew. Yeah.
Try this.
Yeah. So I lined up the kind of 3 grades of syrup, light, medium, and dark, and I would let people try them. And if they still wanted light, I would say, well, there's another producer right down the street who makes really light syrup. Go get his. But most people would decide they wanted a darker grade of syrup, and so they would stay and buy ours. And so anyway, we did the 3 grades. So then when Pat came up with hickory syrup, we let people taste that. And suddenly I felt kind of like a confessor in Highland County, because all these people from Highland County would say, I hate to say this, I've lived here my whole life and I don't like maple syrup, but they loved the hickory syrup. And the second year that we had the hickory, which I'm sorry I didn't bring a sample of, but anyway, the second year we had the hickory, it was 30% of our sales. And so I thought, yeah, people want something different.
Interesting.
So then the following year was the year of the barrel experiment.
The bourbon barrel.
The bourbon barrel. And yeah.
That was funny.
And so we tried that, and that was kind of the Maple Festival that was crazy, because everybody was actually everything worked perfectly, because my daughter is a graphic designer, so she does our labels and things for us.
Yeah, your branding's awesome.
And thank you. And she happened to be at the sugar house, or at our cabin that we have too, when we came up with the bourbon. And I said, I need a label. So anyway, she was there. She did a label. We just printed some off on the printer, but it's basically stayed the same. Anyway, so we had the label, and I had this particular container, which we hadn't used for anything else. we put them out there, and people were stopping Pat's pickup on the street saying, "Hey, save me some of that bourbon syrup."
One guy come by says, "I'll give you $30 for a bottle of that." I said, "I don't have any."
Because we just had this one
Wow.
little, at the time, they were like 6-gallon barrels.
Yeah,
they were,
it was a little side
Yeah,
experiment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man,
So
they
then-
just flew out of
They
there.
flew out of there. The second weekend of Maple Festival, I'm sitting on the courthouse lawn. Pat got the flu. He's home sick. And I am sitting there with no barrel aged syrup to sell, and everybody coming by and asking for it. And I'm thinking, I got to get to Richmond and get some more barrels.
Yeah.
And so then while we were waiting for the barrels to age, we were like, well, what else can we do with the syrup? And that's how we got into the infusions and things and started trying different infusions. And to be honest, I mean, that's really when our business took off, was getting into that, because like Pat said, people are always saying, hey, what do you have that's new? You know, what's different this year? So we keep
Yeah.
trying to come up with new.
I think
Products and things.
as I think about it more, I think the cocktail mixer thing or the coffee mixer thing is probably a huge niche market that, I mean, that like you guys make a maple syrup latte that's amazing with y'all's maple syrup at the cafe.
Yes.
That I can see how that would really pique people's
We
interest.
make a coffee amaretto infused syrup.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it sounds so good.
I love
Yeah.
this speaks to many different types of businesses, but I can speak to it as well, where you have your tried and true, but what people are so intrigued and just come out of the woodwork for the new product. It's such a
Right.
good reminder in
Yes.
the business entrepreneurial world to always be brainstorming the new thing, the new
Yes.
offering, just to entice the customers even more so. But that holds for maple, for bread,
I
for
think
variety
any
industry.
small business, that
Yeah.
differentiator. And I
Yes.
say small business, I mean even
Big business too,
yeah,
suppose.
Yeah.
figuring out how you're going to really
Yeah.
stand out amongst all these other.
Right.
Have
And
you noticed
infusions and
your
barrel aging is definitely the majority of our business.
Have you noticed your friends in Back Creek? Have they taken note of this? And
Highland County,
yes,
Oh,
are they,
yeah.
people doing the same?
we have a lot of imitators now,
Yeah,
But there's only one.
there's
but
only
there is only one.
But I got to tell you this story. When we were so excited about the infusions when we first started making them, I asked some of the other sugar makers. I said, "Would you like me to show you how to do this?" Or their answers were, "I'm not ruining my syrup."
Oh wow.
And I said,
Yeah.
"Okay,
Purists.
do you want to walk to that bank up there and give them $6 for an 8 ouncer, or do you want to sell it to them for it was 18 at that time, or sell it for $18 for the same amount of syrup?"
Yeah. it
They'd
just
get that
makes
deer in
sense.
the headlight look, and
Yeah.
then I'd walk off.
So,
Yeah, that
Anyway,
makes
We
sense.
tried, we offered,
Yeah.
and but most of them, it's been a few years since they started.
right.
They're
doing
like,
it,
you know what? Maybe we will do these.
And I won't give my recipes out.
Yeah.
There's only one person that does it, and they're so far away that it doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah.
So
So, and then we started doing our little sampler sets, because
That's
we'd
smart.
have all these different infusions, and people would say, "Oh, I don't want to buy, I can't buy all these things." So we started doing our sampler sets. And so we're doing, I think, a few things that make us unique as a business. And then, like we said, we keep coming up with too many ideas. So,
Love that. Can you and speak as much or as little on this as you wish, but can you speak to the financials of your business right now, and how is it your main source of income? Is it a side project? Is it something that can put food on your table for the entire year, being that the season is so short? Can you speak to some of those particulars for the audience?
actually, the way we do our business now, I heard this phrase one time called nice living for owner, NLFO. And that's basically what it is. I mean, we can't afford to hire a lot of people, but it can be a good living for a family. And especially since it's a farm and at this point, there's still tax breaks for farms and things like that. So, yeah, from that standpoint, I think that's
And it's fascinating as I was hearing you talk through the season. You know, I'm sure you're doing stuff during the summertime, you know, maintaining lots of
It's-
things. But I imagine it's sort of like me right now in the winter to some extent, where it's flip-flopped, where there's a little bit of, you know, the rush isn't on, so to speak, versus in season when you're collecting sap
Right.
and the rush is really
Right.
on. So there's a little bit of seasonality to it, right?
The only seasonality is if I'm gonna have to have an operation, we always do it after we get all the sugar making stuff cleaned up. Then I go and get operated on, get a new
Hip
hip,
replacement.
get a new shoulder, get a
Yeah.
whatever.
Bionic Man.
And then that is our off season.
his off season.
His, yeah, yeah. I was like that.
But anyhow, that's about the only all season we
Well,
get.
because now we do wholesale. We kind of have a route between Highland County and Richmond because my daughter
cool.
lives in Richmond. So we do Charlottesville and Richmond. And
So
Are you having trouble, being a relative term, moving your product, or are there different outlets you need, or
No.
what does it look like to scale up
I have trouble saying no to people that we can't supply.
fulfill their order?
And basically, we pick and choose who we supply at this point, because I don't want to like saturate the market in a particular area. I want our wholesalers to feel like they're getting a premium product too, and like I said, and not saturate the market. So basically, what we do at this point is we do Maple Festival, which is obviously a huge income boost in the spring. And then over the summer, it's mainly supplying our wholesalers. And then in the fall, we do 2 shows. One, Dayton Days up in Dayton, Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
And then, which is just a 1-day show, but we have quite a fan club there, so it's great. And then we do a 3-day show down in Richmond the beginning of November, which is huge. But we just do those shows, and I figure at this point that's really all we need to do. And the other thing that makes that feasible is COVID was so good to us.
yeah. People said we need to find out where this food's coming from.
Well, that was about it.
Yeah.
Or a lot of the people that had visited us on the courthouse lawn, but never been able to see our operation. So the year of COVID, obviously everything shut down. There was no Maple Festival. But then the next year, they shut down Maple Festival again. And I felt like we could safely be open. And so we and all the other sugar makers in Highland County were open those 2 weekends. And so many people said, thank you for being open.
So basically, the sugar tour still happened.
Still happened. Now, everybody else was already on the map. We were not on the map. So the only advertising we had was what I did on social media, basically. But we had over 1,000 people come.
Whoa.
So, and they all said, thank you for being open. It's so nice to see your farm. And, and we had...
And they all bought a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they did. And so anyway, and the other thing that COVID did was our online sales exploded after that. So we do a lot of selling online too, and I can help you with some online tips,
Yeah, I love
for
that.
shipping nationwide. So anyway, those 2 things, and then after that first year's experience, we decided to stay open there at the farm. We have a small shop there. And so anyway, that's like fully stocked with all our products. And we're sort of open year round for anyone to stop by.
Especially
we
events.
recommend calling first.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so that's taken the pressure off of doing shows and things like that. So that's why we just do those. But if someone were interested in this business, because we are kind of aging out of it at this point, doing more shows would definitely be a possibility. And,
Oh, yeah.
we know there's the market.
Yeah.
And also, after we do a show somewhere, there's definitely an uptick in our online sales after that. So
So the production of all the sugar bushes you have right now isn't the limiting factor. It's more, or what is the, would you say, or is it more your level of contentment with where the business is
it's
at
our
in terms
level
of
of contentment.
yeah.
Yeah.
But where you are, you do have enough sugar water that you could, if one wanted to, you could produce more syrup if you wanted to.
Yes, you
Yes,
could.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
I look at some of the places where there are more sugar bushes, and
Yeah.
you know what in 20 years ago was not a reality could be now
Yeah.
because of the tubing and
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
all
Well-
that stuff. So
And
That's,
they've
that's
done a study
fascinating.
in West Virginia. There are actually more sugar trees in West Virginia than there are in Vermont.
Whoa.
But the problem is access. So again, it's the accessibility that's the can be a limiting factor.
Yeah, Vermont's generally more developed, I guess. So there's
has better
more
marketing.
roads and yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
you was talking about your big sugar trees at your house.
Yes, yeah.
The bigger the canopy, the sweeter the water.
Yes.
Interesting.
And they have a lot of red maples up north,
Mm.
and they grow up like a light pole, and then they have a poof
Mm.
in the top of them.
Yeah, ours look like they're the two in our front yard. I'll have to show you before you guys head out. Are like huge. Look like an oak tree. It's a big round, and they're probably 2.5 feet at the base. I mean, they're big old trees. I had a tree guy out to ask if there's anything I can do to sort of sustain them because I know they're getting just generally towards the end of a life cycle as a sugar maple. And he was like, "Wait, they only live, usually 100 or so years."
Oh.
He's like, so he said, "I don't know if there's much you can do." So yeah, what do you think? Could I make it? Could I help him along?
We'll take a
Kelly.
look.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Tell him about the ones up at Gibby's.
Oh, we have some sugar trees that we open that are. It would, if people joined hands, they would easily be like 5 people around.
Oh my goodness.
They are gorgeous
amazing.
trees.
And these are farm trees.
Yeah.
They have the big canopy. That's what
Yeah,
I
big
call
open
those.
canopy.
The
Out in
big
the
ones,
field,
out
yeah.
in the field trees. And,
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I think it's-
they pull the sunlight in those leaves and supposedly makes.
Yeah, more energy,
Yeah,
it's
more
healthier
energy,
tree,
yeah.
more sugar. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
Just had to throw that in. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's
no,
great.
that's fascinating.
So you are looking to. There's no one in your family that you would pass this to. You're specifically looking to at this point to hand the reins off. What type of person or people would it require to run this operation?
That's a good question. And the answer to the first part is no. I mean, between the two of us, we have 3 daughters, none of whom are interested or have the capability to take over what we do. What it would require is someone who's interested in leading a farming type of lifestyle, a lot of physical labor, but very independent, I guess you could say. Where we live is rather isolated. It would tend toward the homeschooling type individuals. But it can definitely support a family type operation. And we're just basically getting too old to handle the amount of physical labor for all the ideas we keep thinking of.
Yeah, and all the demand that seems to
And
be there.
kind of what
That's
we've
cool.
thought about is what we would like to do is work with someone and over the course of about 4 years, teach them what we do, mentor them, help them, with the business and things like that. So.
Sounds awesome. Where you all live, I've actually only been through Highland County a couple times, but they call it the Switzerland of Virginia. And as a cattle farmer, everybody in the Shenandoah Valley, they lust after the higher pastures of Highland County, especially come summertime. That's where at least all the guys I know around here that have big cattle herds, most of them have a few places in Highland County that they like to send their cows because there's grasses that grow there that really don't grow other places in the state. And it's just a special part of Virginia. It is remote, to your point, but it is unbelievably beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think that hardly any of the farmers had to start feeding real early because of the drought, but it was amazing.
Yeah, that's
The dews would
Not
be
here.
so heavy. The dews would be so heavy on that grass, I guess, that it was enough moisture to keep it going. And
with the altitude, I imagine.
with the
Yeah.
altitude, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a figure. Highland County is either the highest or one of the highest altitude, on average altitude counties east of the Mississippi,
Yes.
with the lowest population
Population.
density
Right,
as well.
2,200.
Yeah,
For both.
yeah, for
the
both.
altitude
Yeah,
and the
highest
population.
altitude and the highest or the lowest population density. Yeah, pretty impressive.
All right, buddy. Let's move into the lightning round to close this out. Do you want to go first with your?
Sure. I think this first one, hopefully you can keep this lightning round style with a short answer, but it's something we think a lot about in our businesses. Can you describe, and I'm fascinated to hear your answer, being in Highland County with the least populated county in Virginia. Can you describe the importance of community to your business?
It's everything, actually, because without the Maple Festival, no one who makes maple syrup in Highland County would have a business, first of all, because they do so much advertising for us. And still, when we go to Richmond, one of the main things we hear is, I didn't know syrup was made in Virginia. So still getting that word out is important. But the role that maple syrup plays for the community of Highland County is everything, too. It's like that is kind of the county's lifeblood as far as drawing tourists. Actually, we know of 6 couples who have moved to Highland County because of staying at our Airbnb or at our vacation rental.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, it's very important because the tourist industry is everything. So,
That's great. I'm curious. You were longer in the tooth than Buddy and I, as far as doing a business with your spouse. Do you have any keys for success on that front? How to maintain a healthy marriage while being in business together?
You say 2 things. Yes, ma'am, and you're right.
Hey, it's working
Enough
so
said.
far.
Yeah,
and sometimes you just turn and walk away.
fair enough. That's great.
That is good. I wanna stay in it sometimes and make it known how right I am. I'll remember that one.
Oh, she'll tell me if I'm right.
Yep.
But she'll tell me if I'm wrong, too.
Feedback. Thank you for
Yeah.
the feedback.
Yeah.
This is one I always ask our guests. What's your favorite footwear when you're working in the sugar bush or in the sugar
Muck
shack?
boots.
Muck boots. Love it. Muck boots, if you're listening, just again, we would love to be
yes.
sponsored by Muck
For the
Boots.
7th time.
And I like muck shoes because if I'm in, like while we're boiling and I'm in the sugar house, the boots are too much, but the muck shoes keep my feet warm.
Yeah, the lower cut.
Yeah, yeah.
I like
Actually,
those
I
too.
just took a pair off this morning and put these on.
yeah.
Yeah. I've been known to put duct tape on the bottom of my muck shoes.
Yes. Yeah.
Last one for me. We often ask the question, what is enough? And it can be interpreted, answered a number of different ways. But I think the intrigue for us as we're young in our business is, you're seeking profit, you're seeking this stability on the family level and how to do the business well within those things. So I'd ask you, looking back or where you're at now, what is enough for you all? What is enough?
I would say we have enough. We're very, in a kind of a funny way, I would say content with what we have. But at the same time, we're always like, hey, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. So it's not, so enough isn't like just sitting back and doing nothing. But I feel like we have enough, and we're very blessed with what God has given us over time. Especially like the phases that our business has gone through. I feel like we've been blessed with what we needed at just the right time.
He has led us through every level
Yes.
of
Yeah.
the business.
Yeah.
And I can see it. I mean,
Yeah.
we have people come up to our sugar house and they'll ask us this question. Say, what is that feel around here?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
You know what it is? God, He's
Yes.
right there
It's-
with you.
Yeah. There's definitely His presence there. So,
Yeah, and I think satisfaction.
yeah.
But as the old phase goes, or old phrase goes, is enough's enough.
That's enough. That's great.
Or as my mother would say, that's enough of that.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you both for joining us on the podcast today. I really learned a lot from you guys about maple syrup. And frankly, I didn't realize as we started talking about the infused syrups and just the business potential upside of it, we briefly talked about the sustainable ag piece of it, that it really, there's a very interesting inflection point that maple syrup as an industry is at in Virginia. And like you said, a lot of people don't even realize great maple syrup comes from right here in the Commonwealth. So thanks for coming on and highlighting that and teaching me about it. And I hope people listening really enjoyed getting to learn about it more, and will come and check out Back Creek and what you guys are doing.
And anyone interested in a great agribusiness is welcome to talk to us about
Yeah,
it.
reach out, email us at the Baker and the Farmer, or go to the Back Creek website and shoot them an email.
Yeah, nothing would make us more happy than if that came from the podcast. That'd be really rich.
Yes.
Making that connection. So, and we'll pray in that regard for you all.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your time. Thank you for inspiring us. I want to recommit to mapling, and
Yeah, I think I'm going to be tapping some trees here on the farm now.
let's do it. So,
You're like evangelists for
We
the
are.
maple syrup.
thank you so much. And Pat, maybe Buddy and I'll come enjoy a drink with you on the back porch sometime.
We're in.